Have you ever heard the idea that we own our own thoughts? Well, I'm digging into that today in this week's episode of Your Delicious Life. Join me. Hi everybody, I'm Michelle Carre and welcome to Your Delicious Life, where each week we take a look at life from a different perspective and we either learn something new or get reminded of something that we already knew. This week's episode is called Practical Examples for Owning Your Thoughts. You've heard this theory before, right? The idea that the thoughts that come into our mind are external and it's up to us to apply attachment or emotion or even allow them in at all. Well, I love this theory, but sometimes with these great big theories, we need a practical example to really connect it so we know how we could apply it in our own lives. And that's what I want to share with you today is 2 examples from my life and literally within the last 10 days of really taking ownership of your thoughts. Before we get into it though, I do want to say that this idea and this approach is great for many, but if you're someone who lives with a mental illness like depression or anxiety or any other one, the idea of owning your thoughts may not be something that's realistic for you, or could be something that's very challenging. So this is not meant to in any way minimize that. It's meant to be an encouragement for people that feel like this would work for them in their lives. So I hope you enjoy the episode and let's dig into it. About 10 days ago, our son Lochlan broke his tibia. So this is the bone at the front of your leg on the lower half. And all in all, he's been in pretty good spirits about it. But the other day we were chatting and I could tell that he was kind of sad. So I asked him what was going on and he told me that he was really afraid that he would have to have his cast on for his birthday. Now, his birthday is in July, so that's, 6.5 months from now. So I knew that the reality of that was probably not very high. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, I don't know, but chances are he's probably not going to have this cast on by July. It'll probably be off in 6 to 8 weeks, I would guess. But he had this thought in his head, and it was deeply anchored in him, so much so that he was upset about it. Now, he didn't come by this idea completely on his own. We made the mistake of asking that Google Home speaker thingy, how long does it take to recover from a tibia fracture? Well, she tells us 6 to 8 months, which totally put this idea in his head in the first place. And the thing that we didn't discuss with him at that time and should have was that it was a very generalized response. It didn't take into consideration if you had to have pins or any kind of surgery. She didn't say that you would be in a cast for that long or that that was just the full recovery period. There was a lot of questions that were unanswered. But regardless, he heard the time frame and had it in his head. So I said to him, buddy, we have control over the thoughts that that come into our minds. So when this idea of having your cast on in July comes in, you need to say, no, I'm not letting you into my brain. You're not a welcome thought and you're not going to take my emotions. And you just have to push it out. And I explained to him, we don't even have all the answers. We're going to see the specialist this week, but we don't actually know much more than what we learned at urgent care when he first broke it. So to make assumptions and to allow thoughts to impact us that are based on information that we don't even have is not a good approach. So instead, let's focus on having good thoughts about it. And if bad ones come in, let's shove them aside and instead think about what could happen, that you are recovering well and that it could be off sooner than you expect. And just imagining yourself playing again and not having the cast on at all. And I really tried to help him refocus his thought process. Now, I don't know about you, but this happens all the time where we get a little nugget of information and we suddenly blow it up to be something way more than it is. And we fill in all these gaps and these blanks with our own ideas and made up answers. And we don't actually have the facts of the situation. But what we end up creating is this story that is difficult most times. So I think it's a really good example of how we can say, you know what, we don't have all the details, and I'm not going to think about the bad stuff. I'm going to push those thoughts out of my head, and I'm only going to think about the good stuff, because we can control what we choose to think about. So that's what I wanted to share with Lochlan, and I hope he got it. My hope was that, hey, if I can teach him this now, that's really good for him. He doesn't have to learn that as an adult. But I think it's something that as adults we can certainly take into our tool belts and think, you know what? Yeah, I don't have to believe that. I don't have to accept that thought. I can push it out and replace it with a good thought that makes me feel happy and excited. The other example I have for you is a speaking engagement I did last week. So our brokerage, Redline Real Estate, does this awesome event called Thrive Not Survive. They bring in different speakers, and it's just a great learning opportunity. And so I was asked to speak at the event last week, and it was awesome. It was really fun. But I was thrown for a bit of a loop, because there was an agenda for when each speaker was going, of course. And long story short, there was a moment where they realized the next speaker wasn't there or available yet. So they looked up to the audience, because they knew I was sitting in there, and said, okay, Michelle, can you go next? Yep, let's do this. So off I go. But before we had even got there, we were in the car with a friend of ours and driving in together. And she asked me, do you get nervous? And I said, no. Now, I want to clarify something. I get butterflies. I feel jittery. My heart races. I feel like my breathing gets shallow. And I guess some people would call that nervous, but I don't call it that. I call it excitement, because I feel like the word nervous is fear-based, and I don't want to have that mindset. Instead, I want to think of it as excitement, because I'm sure I know the same things happen in my body when I'm on a roller coaster and we're coming to the top and it's like, woo! Which, by the way, I love. But that built up energy in your body. So you can define that built up energy as nervousness, or you can define that built up energy as excitement. So I said, no, I don't get nervous. I get excited. And that helps me reframe. Now, I was thrown up on stage kind of without a few minutes to prepare. Usually I would, make sure the presentation's all set up and the clicker's ready to go. And they were very fast at getting it all together. But, I would take a couple of breaths and just kind of get my mindset ready. And I didn't really have that opportunity. So I was up on stage and it took me a minute to get my groove. But eventually I just sort of said in my mind, this is awesome. And it totally reset me, because I didn't have that opportunity to take a moment beforehand. But when I just sort of quickly mentally in my head said, nope, this is a cool thing, it switched it and I was on my game. I felt great about my talk. I had a lot of fun, and I think it went really well. So I want you guys to think about how we address or label different feelings, because that's part of owning your thoughts as well. You can go into a situation, whether it's a meeting with a client or, maybe a difficult conversation with someone else, or just anything where you might feel nervous, whatever that situation is in your life. And you can attach the word nervous to it, or you can say, I'm excited, or you can say, I feel strong and I feel empowered. You can attach whatever feeling or emotion you want to the physical happenings within your body. And that's another way that we can own our thoughts and what's happening in our heads. When you realize that you can choose your own thoughts and you can assign emotion to your feelings and you're responsible for that, it is truly empowering. And you guys know I love a good analogy. So I kind of think of it like a doorman at a club, right? And you're standing there thinking, okay, this negative, nasty comment, this negative, nasty idea is trying to come up in here in the club of my brain, and I'm not having it. So I'm sorry, but I am turning you away at the door, and you can be on your merry, merry way. But something comes up and it's positive and happy, and you're like, velvet rope up, in you come, friends, let's have a party. And maybe something shows up and you think, you could be negative, but I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to turn you into something positive and you're going to come in the club. You can make these decisions, you guys. So if you are finding yourself in a situation where a negative thought is coming in, ask yourself, do I need to really be thinking about this? Is this really reality, or am I creating a reality around something negative that isn't even true? Then let it go. That doesn't need to be in your headspace. You got better things to think about than the possibility of something negative happening. And if you are feeling an emotion and you're attaching something that makes you feel not good, then ask yourself, can I attach this to a different emotion? An emotion that makes me feel better, makes me feel empowered, and pick a different one. This is up to you guys. We are taught certain things about thoughts and emotions, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can make a choice, and when you do that, you can live such a beautiful life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you next week for the next episode. Take care. Hey guys, before we go, I just wanted to remind you about the upcoming workshop called Detox Your Business, Ignite Your Life. This workshop is happening here in Airdrie on Friday, February 16th, and it goes from 9 to 4. You can get tickets online, and what I'm actually going to do is put a link in the blog post below this video so you can check it out there. It's $35 a ticket. And this is going to be an awesome event. The other two speakers are Tyler Hoffman from Vancouver and Paula Hopewood, who's out in Alberta here as well. And they are both so good at what they do. If you come to this, you are going to have so many great takeaways just from the speakers and what they have to say. So I'd love for you to join us. Like I said, I'll put the link below and you can check out the details. If you have any questions, just send me a message. Happy to help.